let's talk about the numbers that we're seeing so far. Andrew, I see you've been making notes. What's the math tell you?
Well, first, the math says that half the delegates tonight will be awarded in Texas and California. So we have to wait and see really what the outcome of the day in sum is going to be. Now, I would say that hundreds of political science professors around the country have been waiting for today because they wanted to answer the question, what would happen if a candidate skipped the first 4 states, dumped hundreds of millions of dollars into advertising in the Super Tuesday states? And to me, there are 3 drivers of support. There's grassroots support, earned media, and then paid advertising and paid field staff. And to me, you need all 3 working. Bloomberg maxed out the ads and the paid field staff. And I think he found out that the money's like pushing on a string after a while, where you spend more money and it doesn't really have an impact.
Abdul?
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely right. The question with Joe Biden, is it the name ID plus a lot of friends, or is he on his own with a message able to carry the day? And that's still an open question, I think.
But I guess in all of these contests, he's going to have people endorse him.
He's not going to be on his own for the rest of the campaign.
The rest of his,
Even though there's joy tonight to see, you know, and everybody loves Joe, so to see him rise from the dead is great. But this is still a divided party, and tonight could be pretty bitter.
That's the joke, is that Bernie Sanders is the most unifying figure in the Democratic Party because all the Democrats have just unified because they were worried Bernie was going to run away with it.
We're going to take a quick break, the busiest hour.
Clyburn might have been the spark, and then you had all of these other dominoes to fall. He looked like a winner in a way we hadn't seen.
But there isn't, Andrew, there isn't a fundamental change in, I don't know, are people getting carried away with just momentum based on this Clyburn endorsement and the win, and then, it's been only 3 days and it seems like, everything's going. But, if you see him in a debate the next time, is he going to be radically different than he was before?
People love a winner, Anderson. And the fact is, having figures like Pete and Amy drop out and endorse him show that the party's consolidating around Joe. And I have to say, echoing what Van said, there's this sense around the Bernie camp that like, oh no, here we go again, where the DNC and the establishment are coming together to kneecap Bernie in a way that's reminiscent of what they felt happened in 2016. I think that many voters have been waiting for a clear frontrunner to emerge, and now that Joe has that momentum, he's not letting it go.
What is going on inside the Bloomberg camp tonight?
Yeah.
And Jeff Zeleny, and you can talk about how it feels to before you get out. Sorry, Andrew.
No,
but
cold.
Andrew, do you think Bloomberg? I mean, you talked about it before. He's a data guy. He's going to look at the numbers. I mean, the numbers are not good.
I think Mike is going to have a tough decision tomorrow, and I think the numbers are going to drive him in a particular direction. But I do want to say that Mike Bloomberg is going to be a big reason why the Democrats win in the fall if they do win, because he has over 2,400 staffers, 200 offices.
And you said his data operation is very impressive.
Now, people think of Mike Bloomberg as a Wall Street guy. He's actually more of a tech and data guy. And his New York HQ is like a spaceship come to life. His election dashboard is like a miniaturized version of that. It's incredible what he's already assembled, and he's going to put that to work for the nominee in the fall. If the Democrats win, he's going to be a big reason why, because his operation is much more robust and sophisticated than anything the DNC has. I just want to say there are 2 big scenarios. Let's say Mike Bloomberg does get out. There's a scenario where he endorses Biden relatively promptly, and then this massive operation goes to Biden. And then there's a world where he says, I'll wait for the nominee and support that nominee. I want to go back to Elizabeth Warren, because I think she's the most interesting decision maker in many respects going forward. If you'd asked me at the beginning of the day, I thought Elizabeth Warren was going to be here for the duration. She just raised $29 million in February on the back of a couple tremendous debate performances. She has $14 million in a super PAC that's now come in. And her entire brand is she persisted. It's like this is the fighter, smart, substantive, serious. But this was a really adverse night for Elizabeth Warren. And so I'm rethinking even now what her path can look like moving forward. And if you look at what happened in the other part of the candidates, Pete and Amy drop out, endorse Joe, and then their support goes to Joe. But Elizabeth seems to be heightening her contrast with Bernie instead of trying to consolidate. And that, to me, is one of the most important dynamics in the race, because if you have 2 front runners in the form of Joe and Bernie, and Joe's consolidating, and then Elizabeth stays in the race, I think it's going to be tougher for Bernie. And it's unclear to me whether Elizabeth's support all naturally flows to Bernie in the same way as...
Well, what about an endorsement from her? Who do you think she would... I mean, you would think on paper it would be Sanders, but as you said, people consolidating behind Biden.
Yeah, that's the big question. And I think Elizabeth has been doubling down in terms of saying, look, Bernie has a lot of these great ideas, but I can get things done. And that's been the opposite of the movement in the other with Pete and Amy and Joe. So to me, the decision that Elizabeth makes moving forward is one of the most important decisions in the race. Yeah. And what happens to her support. If she were to endorse Bernie wholeheartedly, that's a very, very different dynamic than if she decides to drop out and does not endorse.
Or could she endorse Biden?
I want to go with our experts here, particularly those who have run campaigns or been in campaigns. Andrew Yang, let's start with you. Talk about a little bit about what the thought process, or at least the situation that Mike Bloomberg finds himself in tonight, and Elizabeth Warren.
For Bloomberg, he's a data-driven decision maker. He looked up and he had a case that has frankly not come together for his campaign. He expected Biden to falter, and Biden has actually done the opposite of faltering. Biden is genuinely the new comeback kid. I'm not sure we've seen a campaign gain momentum as quickly as Joe's campaign has the last several days.
Especially with no money. I mean...
Yeah, it does make you question. Terry was joking. It's like, why are we hiring all these people in these states? Like, what was setting up this race? Like, it turns out,
next time around, Andy.
all you need is a burst of Joe momentum, and it just takes off on its own. But to me, Mike's a very, very data-driven decision maker, and I think the numbers are going to drive his decision tomorrow. To me, the real question is whether he decides to throw his weight behind Joe Biden as part of a decision, or whether there's some interim period.
And do you think that's an emotional decision, or just kind of letting time pass to make that decision?
I think Mike's going to make his decisions pretty quickly. He's got a very, very advanced team. They have probably already mapped out these scenarios. I think we're going to get decisions from him very quickly.
And his team is employed either way, apparently. I mean, they're paid through November.
Mm-hmm. They're paid through November, and I got to say, having the Bloomberg operation behind you is one of the greatest assets for the nominee heading into the fall, because you cannot say his operation is anything but first rate. It's some of the most impressive group of people, impressive technology, and they've taken a lot of my team, given them 150% pay raises, and they're good to go through the fall. They've done that with many of our teams, honestly. Like, they went around. It was almost like a corporate roll-up. It was like the Bloomberg machine came and just did like M&A on all of the campaigns.
And you don't win American Samoa by doing that.
You're being rough. But as a candidate, though, I was kind of grateful, because you have all these hardworking, excellent people working for you, and then they have this very, very soft landing on the Bloomberg campaign that takes it through the ball.
But he can turn around and position that to help Biden or to help the party. For me, and I want to hear the other people, but I just think if you're Bernie Sanders, this is your worst case scenario.
The time for yelling at each other for supporting somebody different is over. Everybody wants to beat Trump.
I don't think it's over
good
yet.
luck with that.
It's not over yet.
Good luck with that.
We're framing this as a need for Joe to evolve and become more inclusive to get some of the young Bernie supporters. And we're framing it this way in part because we don't think Bernie has necessarily demonstrated like a change in tone or a change in message, because Bernie has been very, very consistent, which is both his strength, but also right now, potentially a limitation. And if you look at the calendar ahead, it seems to me like the greatest catalyst, not to hype it up too much because it's on CNN, but the greatest opportunity for there to be another change of direction in this campaign is the debate on the 15th.
Yes.
6 states do vote next week, but really the 15th in the debate right before the next set of states on the 17th strikes me as the next big opportunity for Bernie, in this case, to seize a different type of narrative. And the question is whether Bernie can evolve.
Well,
that's the
but I don't think
Put the money in our hands. 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 Can we afford it? Yes. Will it cause inflation? No. Is it awesome? Yes. Is anyone trying to make it happen? Yeah, that guy.